On the morning of May 6, 2016, Mrs. Shola arrived at the Shonde family home in Egbeda, Lagos State, Nigeria, ready to start another day of work. She had been paid her salary the previous day, and to the best of her knowledge, everything in the Shonde family house was normal before she closed from work that day. But as she approached the family compound around 6 a.m., she would make an unusual discovery that would mark the beginning of something far more disturbing. Mrs. Shola discovered that the gate to the compound was locked, which was quite unusual because Mr. Shonde, who was a dock worker at the Papa Port complex, always left the gate and main entrance to the apartment open for her when he departed for work early in the morning. His job required him to be at the depot by 5 a.m. daily, and his wife, Ronke, was a staff member at a packaging company, which was also demanding. Both parents had busy schedules, which was why they employed Mrs. Shola as a nanny to look after their two children, prepare them for school, and also handle some household duties. Mrs. Shola knocked on the gate several times, but there was no response. Out of concern, she decided to reach out to a neighbor for help. As she spoke with the neighbor about the situation with the gate, Ronke's 6-year-old son saw her through the window and then drew her attention by calling her grandma repeatedly. Mrs. Shola asked the boy about his mother, and he responded that his mother was in the parlor and that he had been trying to wake her up, but she hadn't been responding. The neighbor opened the gate for Mrs. Shola, and together they rushed down to the family's apartment, which was on the first floor of the building. On getting there, they realized that the door had been locked. The neighbor quickly brought a ladder and then climbed up to peer through the window of the flat. What he saw through the glass made his heart sink. From what he could see, Mrs. Ronke appeared to be lying motionless on the floor. The house was locked from the inside, and there was no way to get in without breaking down the door. Mrs. Shola immediately called Mr. Shonde to inform him about the situation. She told him that they could not gain access to the home and that his wife was lying unresponsive on the floor. Lekon assured her that he was coming, but strangely, he never showed up. There was a cousin of Ronke who had arrived at the scene, and he too assured everyone that Lekon would come. But as minutes turned to hours, it became clear that the husband was not coming to help. Left with no other choice, the neighbors and relatives decided to break the door and force their way into the apartment. However, forcing the door open proved to be very difficult at the time, so they had to pass through the ceiling in the adjoining flat in order to gain access into the family's apartment. The scene inside the apartment was heartbreaking. Mrs. Ronke Shonde was lying on her back on the floor of the living room, and it was clear that she was no longer alive. A welder was called to the scene, who then cut the door open. When they finally gained entry, they quickly removed the two children from the scene. When asked what had happened, the confused children said they had been asleep all through the night and that they had no idea about what had happened to their mother. The matter was immediately reported to the Dimu Police Division, and Ronke's body was evacuated and then taken to the mortuary, pending an autopsy and further investigation. For 5 whole days, Lekon Shonde was nowhere to be found. The Lagos State Police Command declared him wanted, launching an extensive manhunt for the missing husband. During this time, friends, family, and concerned citizens were asking several questions about what really happened in the Shonde family's house on the night of May 5th, 2016. Finally, on the 5th day, after his wife's death, Lekon Shonde made a decision that would seal his fate. He turned himself in to the Rapid Response Squad of the Lagos State Police Command. Dressed in a blue shirt and black trousers, he was seen walking barefoot around the command in company of his lawyer. Even as he surrendered himself to the authorities, Lekon maintained his innocence, insisting that he did not kill his wife, but that she had indeed been unfaithful to him. When Lekon Shonde finally told his story to the police, the details he provided painted a picture of a marriage that had been falling apart for months. Initially, he continued to deny that he had killed his wife, but as the interrogation continued, the truth began to emerge. Lekon explained that since Ronke had lost her former job as a banker, he had been the one taking care of everything in the house. He claimed that he was a responsible husband who provided for his family, even giving his wife access to his ATM cards and allowing her to use both his cars since he did not drive. However, he revealed that problems started when Ronke began working for the packaging company. According to him, Ronke started coming home very late and also working from Monday to Sunday. She rarely prepared food for him and the children anymore, despite the fact that he was still supporting her financially. The breaking point came when Ronke told him that she was going on a business trip to Abuja for 4 days on behalf of her company. Lekon allowed her to go, staying home to take care of their 2 children while combining his responsibility with his demanding job. But a day before her return, he received a phone call from a friend who delivered some shocking news to him. The friend asked him if he was aware that his wife had traveled to Abuja with her boss, a man named Kayode, and that they had shared the same hotel room for the entire 4 days they had been on the trip. Lekon was stunned because Ronke had never mentioned that she was traveling with her boss or the fact that she would be sharing accommodation with him. When Ronke returned from the trip, Lekon decided to come home earlier than usual. He used his spare key to enter the house unannounced, and what he heard next would kickstart a chain of events that would end up leaving their 2 young children without their biological parents. His wife was on the phone, and the conversation she was having would cut through Lekon like a knife. According to his confession, he overheard Ronke speaking to someone on the phone, saying how much she had enjoyed their lovemaking, how her private parts were still hurting from all the activity, and how she could not wait to repeat the experience some other time. She was basically telling the man on the phone that he was the best she had ever had. Lekon admitted that he was boiling with anger and that in his fury, he slapped his wife from behind. The force of the slap caused her to fall forward and hit her head on the wall. She later stood up, held him and apologized before going to the room to change clothes and take a bath. Lekon explained that earlier that day, Ronke had called him asking to buy moi moi and pap for their dinner on his way home. She had also mentioned that the nanny had already prepared noodles for the children. After her bath, she asked what he would eat with the moi moi, and he told her that he would have gari while she had her moi moi with pap. Ronke then told him she was going downstairs to the living room while he said he was going to sleep. Later, when he came out, he saw her lying on the couch. Ronke then told him that she would join him in the bedroom later. According to Lekon's account, this was the last conversation he had with his wife while she was alive. The next morning, when he was leaving for work, he saw Ronke still lying on the couch with her mobile phone beside her. He assumed she was still sleeping, and as such, he did not want to wake her up. He claimed he left for work with his key and then asked their son to lock the padlock from inside the house. It was while he was at work that Mrs. Shola called him to report that they had been trying to get Ronke to open the door, but they were getting no response. Lekon had told them to break the door open if she was not responding. However, he claimed when he called later for an update, he was told that the police were everywhere. He said this news scared him, and instead of rushing home to see what had happened to his wife, he decided to stay away from the house and the scene, not knowing that this decision to go into hiding would later be used as evidence of his guilt. While Lekon was telling his version of events, Ronke's family had a very different story to tell. Bolatito Bewaji, Ronke's sister and the only surviving child in their family, came forward with disturbing revelations about the true nature of the marriage. According to Bolatito, the problems in the marriage began when Ronke discovered that her husband had fathered a child outside their marriage. This discovery deeply affected their marriage and also changed everything between them. Bolatito revealed that her sister had endured a long period of domestic abuse at the hands of Lekon. The first case of the abuse that she could remember happened sometime in 2012, but the most recent and severe incident occurred in December 2015, just months before Ronke's death. During that December incident, the family was still mourning the death of Bolatito's brother when Lekon started verbally assaulting Ronke. The situation became so heated that Ronke and Lekon's mother, who was present in the house, had to leave immediately. Bolatito said she received a call from her mother and then went to the police station closest to the house to file a report. However, she was told by the officer on duty that she could not report the case since she was not the victim. Bolatito then went to her sister's house, and when she tried to get Ronke to live with her, Lekon reportedly created a scene on their street and refused to let his wife go. Bolatito's mother insisted that Ronke must pack her belongings and leave, and even Bolatito herself began begging her sister to follow them. For a moment, it seemed like Ronke would finally leave. She stood up and walked ahead of Bolatito, but when Bolatito stepped out and looked back, she discovered that Ronke had returned to the house and was back in bed. Bolatito called out to her sister, saying she was concerned about her safety and reminding her that they had just lost their brother and could not afford to lose her too. At this point, Ronke was said to have broken down and started crying. The situation became so serious that a pastor from the street and the landlady of the house came out to intervene. They begged on behalf of Lekon, who was also pleading and claiming that his behavior was the devil's handiwork. Bolatito's mother gave Ronke an ultimatum, which was that either she followed them home or she signed an undertaking at the police station stating that whatever happened to her, the family would not be held responsible. The latest problem in the marriage began when a woman showed up at their home with a child, claiming that Lekon was the father. Caught completely off guard by this visit, Lekon started begging his wife for forgiveness. Ronke had called her sister to tell her about this shocking development. She was devastated by the news, and from that point on, she started keeping to herself. Lekon tried everything to win her back. He would kneel and beg in the kitchen and bathroom, promising to do a DNA test to determine if the child was really his. However, he never followed through with the DNA test. Instead, he started sending people to beg Ronke on his behalf because she had decided to stop talking to him. Bolatito firmly denied all the cheating accusations leveled against Ronke by Lekon. She insisted that her sister never had any relationship outside of marriage and that the relationship between Ronke and her manager was purely professional. Bolatito also disputed Lekon's claims about providing for Ronke. She revealed that rather than buying her 2 cars as he claimed, Ronke had been struggling to raise 70,000 naira to change the gearbox of her car. Ronke would sometimes ask Bolatito for money for the children's school fees and other necessities, but whenever Lekon saw money in her account, he would demand to know who had sent it, leading to more fights in the house. Another family member, who preferred to remain anonymous, provided even more disturbing details about Lekon's controlling behavior. This person revealed that Lekon was extremely insecure and jealous, constantly checking Ronke's phone and questioning her about every number that was not in her contacts. Before Ronke got her job at the packaging company, whenever she went for interviews, Lekon would hire a motorcyclist to follow her and verify that she was actually going for an interview and not meeting with someone else. If she told him she was going to see a friend, he would call that friend shortly after to check if Ronke was really there. The controlling behavior escalated to the point where Lekon would wait for Ronke at the gate at night to see who would drop her off. He even sent friend requests to all her male friends on Facebook, got their contact information, and started calling and harassing them. According to this family member, Lekon's behavior showed that he was deeply insecure and jealous, and this ultimately led to the tragic end of Ronke's life. When the autopsy results finally came out, it revealed that Ronke had died from respiratory failure, which was caused by a severely swollen brain. A bruise was discovered on Ronke's left jaw, and during the autopsy, it was found that she had black pupils, which is a telltale sign of brain injury. The pathologist, who had conducted over 1,000 autopsies throughout his career, stated that it was highly unlikely that Ronke had inflicted these injuries on herself because of the multiplicity and severity of the wounds. The medical team also made some discoveries which suggested that she had suffered previous trauma. These findings supported the family's claims about the long history of domestic abuse that Ronke had endured. The medical evidence contradicted Lekon's claim that he had only slapped his wife once. The degree of injuries found during the autopsy was far more severe than what could be caused by a simple slap. When the case finally went to trial, Lekon Shonde was arraigned on October 24, 2017 on charges of murder. He pleaded not guilty to the charge, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. During the trial, the prosecution called 6 witnesses and presented various pieces of evidence. The testimony of the nanny, Mrs. Shola, was particularly powerful as she described how they discovered Ronke's body and how the children had been trying desperately to wake their mother. Ronke's sister, Bolatito, also testified about the history of domestic violence and revealed that Ronke had actually approached a lawyer to file for divorce on the very day she was murdered. Bolatito told the court that she was not surprised when she got the call about her sister's death because she knew that with the way things were going, Lekon would eventually kill her. In his defense, Lekon maintained his story that he had only slapped his wife after overhearing her phone conversation with her alleged lover. He claimed that when he left for work the next morning, She was sleeping on the couch and he had no idea that anything was wrong. However, the judge was not convinced by his testimony. In her judgment, she noted that Lekon had been very economical with the truth when he claimed that he had only slapped his wife once. The judge pointed out that this account did not match the degree of injuries revealed in the autopsy report. The judge found that the circumstantial evidence was clear and that the prosecution had proved their case beyond reasonable doubt. She noted the sudden provocation, the heat of passion, the retaliation, and the excessive violence used by Lekon, stating that it was far beyond what a reasonable person would do. The judge found Lekon Shonde guilty of murder and sentenced him to death by hanging. In his final plea for mercy, Lekon's lawyer reminded the court that there were 2 children from the marriage who had already passed through the worst moments of their lives. The lawyer pleaded that if these children had any control in the proceedings, they would not want their father prosecuted at all. He asked the court to consider that Lekon had no previous criminal record and had developed health problems during his detention, including hypertension and poor eyesight. However, the state prosecutor thanked the judge for ensuring that justice was done and the court applied the full weight of the law. What are your thoughts on this tragic case? Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories.